Good morning, my name is Janice Reyes, and I'm an attorney at SBA's Office of Advocacy. We're an independent office in SBA who is the voice for small business in the federal government. I review labor and employment regulations, and I try to make them better for small businesses. Our office represents small businesses, small nonprofit organizations, and small governmental entities with a population of under 50,000. Our office has worked on the overtime regulations for 4 years, and we have heard from small businesses all over the country. Our office has wrote a comment letter on the 2015 proposed rule, which had the salary threshold at 50,000 and then lowered to 47,000, and also to the request for information. And the reason why I'm here today is because we really need feedback from all the small businesses in this room, and you can get my card after this, this event. And I really want to thank the Department of Labor for holding this event and for always participating in our roundtables on this rule. Our office held 3 roundtables in the 2015 proposed rule in Louisiana, Kentucky, and DC on the overtime rule. And in the past year, we've held roundtables in 20 states on regulatory reform, and I've attended about half of those. And almost every roundtable that I attended, people mentioned and were very concerned with the overtime regulations. So I've attended the roundtables in Atlanta, Seattle, Kansas City, and now Providence. And so you may have heard some of this before. You all folks. I wanted to just name off some statistics about Rhode Island. There are 99,821 small businesses in Rhode Island, and they represent 98.9% of Rhode Island small businesses, and 224,254 employees, and 52.7% of the private workforce in 2015. And firms with fewer than 100 employees have the largest share of small business employment in Rhode Island. So I wanted to talk just really briefly about our comment letter, which I have copies of if you want a copy. Small businesses agree that the salary threshold should be increased. However, small businesses have told advocacy that the increase in the 2015 and 2016 final rule, which was a double the previous amount in such a short time, would have added significant compliance costs and the numbers of workers eligible for overtime pay. A couple of the costs, really briefly, is that one, most management costs. Most small businesses with under 20 or 30 employees do not have a human resources staff. It is the owners that have to figure out and have to hire expensive HR consultants, attorneys, and tax professionals. Many of them are in this room right now. The hundreds of small businesses have told me that it would take weeks and months to review new regulations, understand and implement these types of regulations. And they've had to have hard conversations with their employees about readjustment of their workforce. So one of the biggest costs is payroll costs. And in the proposed rule in 2015, DOL estimated that the average cost to small businesses would only be $320 to $2,700 in annual costs. And small businesses told us that it would be much more than that, in the tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. These costs would create hardships for these small businesses, who sometimes operate on very low profits. So a couple of the options that small businesses told me that they would use to implement the 2016 rule would be to increase the salary of the managerial staff, and sometimes it could be up to $10,000 or more per employee. And it really was a regional difference. So the rural areas versus the urban areas, big cities versus small cities. We visited places like Iowa, Idaho, even Atlanta, our last Atlanta event. There were some folks from Georgia who had rural small businesses who have more of an impact. Some of the small businesses we talked to, actually most of them, would lower their hours of the managers below 40 hours to minimize the overtime costs. Sorry. But that would entail lots of scheduling time for the managers and hiring and training extra workers. And over the 20 states that we visited, finding qualified, competent staff was the hardest thing to do in this era of low unemployment. There was a lot of, small businesses also discussed a lot of non-financial costs, such as loss of flexibility. Their managers who were salaried have to clock in and out, and they're not used to doing that. So they can't make phone calls at different times in the night or check their emails. And for example, they couldn't take time off to a few hours to watch their kids' baseball game. Another thing, small businesses told me that it really affected the morale of their managers, who really saw it as a demotion to go to an hourly position. And it really had adverse impacts. It will have adverse impacts to non-traditional jobs without regular hours, like seasonal, construction, technology jobs, and call centers. Our comment letters also chronicle the difficulties for small nonprofits and small governments like cities and counties to comply with this rule because they have very low budgets and very low discretionary funds. So a couple of the alternatives we recommended and the small businesses recommended were small businesses want one national salary threshold that reflects regional differences in places like the South and industries like retail and restaurants, like the 2004 rule. It was really, they said, hard to have many regional thresholds because many businesses have multiple locations in different states. In the 2016 final rule, the Department of Labor did have a national threshold that was pegged for Southern wages, but it includes states like DC, where I live, Maryland and Virginia, and these are very high wage states. Advocacy recommended that Department of Labor provide small businesses at least a year or 18 months to implement whatever proposed final rules are created. And also small businesses did not want to change the duties test. And if any kind of changes really require separate rulemaking. Small businesses did not want annual salary updates. It's difficult for small businesses to find these updates and reclassify their employees each time. And they should really analyze, the Department of Labor, if they do these, should analyze the impact on these annual salary updates and get public feedback on them. And so again, thank you again for holding this roundtable, Department of Labor, and I have copies of my letters. So everybody please email me, I have my cards, so thank you.